Welcome to another Azeroth review on another very hot and sunny, but today, World Goth Day. So happy World Goth Day, I guess. Sorry, oh dear, voice is going to go already. It has been bloody hot today. So usual thing, we'll just have to check everything's working. I think it should be working. I haven't monkeyed about with anything for a few days. It should be fine. All recovered after yesterday's disappointment with the Elder Scrolls Online, so it's time now to be disappointed with World of Warcraft matters, but not just yet anyway. And hold on, let me just see, what is it that potentially is up for debate this week? I'm not sure. Has anyone got any things that they want to talk about, whether it's the anything to do with level cap stuff, because we're starting to explore that a little bit more. I did the World Quest video yesterday, but there's still some things that don't really feel like it's how it's going to go live to me. I'd be very, very surprised, for example, if we didn't have to get, if there wasn't a proper rep requirement. I noticed someone on that video put in the comments, and they said, no, it does have a rep requirement. You have to be friendly. And I've tried to ask them, oh, where did you see that then? Because the thing is, there's no requirement on the beta at the moment. Now, I expect there to be one. It basically gives you friendly on a plate. It just says here, have friendly. You know, but like, for example, when I did it, when I leveled up the paladin character, there was one whole zone I missed out. Now, it can't be possible that we're allowed to miss out a whole zone, like a whole quest line. So I think it's going to be a case of having to focus on the major quest lines, a little bit like in Legion, just to make sure you've got them all covered for when you get to level cap. So, hiya, Christmas. In Battle for Azeroth, you'll only need to complete one of either the Horde or the Alliance campaigns to earn the Pathfinder Part 1. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I really don't think it would be fair to... I know, you know, the whole thing with BFA, because it's the very first expansion where there's a totally separate questing experience for Horde and Alliance. It's the first one. But yeah, it would be ridiculous if, although you could argue that's encouragement to play both sides to get the full story, it would be ridiculous if you had to do it. I don't think Blizzard can ever do anything that even requires you to have a second character. You know, and that's what that would do. If if they, so yeah, I mean that, okay. I think that's just a clarification thing, because they have indeed just done that. It annoys me, actually. Why do they never ask my questions? They never do my questions. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's not workable for it to be anything else, is it? You know, it's like them saying, if you want to fly, it's not enough for you to level up a character and do all these Lawmaster achievements and find all these treasures and all the rest of it. You've got to do it on another character as well. On the other faction, where it's not even of any use to you because you can't trade your gold between those characters. You can't trade any reagents or anything like that between them. You know, totally separate. Yeah, there would be hell to pay. So yeah, that's... you know, that one was going to be obvious there. But in terms of other... I mean, I think I was even watching... What was I watching now? I was looking at some tweets going out today. Was it Towley and Preach tweeting about something? But I think, you know, what a lot of people seem to be saying... It wasn't just me. Last week, of course, we were talking about the fact that there isn't really a lot in BFA. Without saying it's going to be a bad expansion, I'm not saying that. But there isn't really a lot to get hyped about, you know. And there's others, good evening, Lamnakan. There are others saying the same thing as well. It's interesting that it's not just me. Because, I mean, I do find it, I am going to be very polarised, Hi Hippie, on my opinions, because remember, what... You know, the leveling content I generally quite enjoy. I like the storylines in World of Warcraft. But beyond that, there is really just the raiding. That's it. The hard mode raiding. And there is nothing else. So sometimes, if it just happens that those two elements are a little bit lacking, which they never really are, but let's say they were. It'd be easy for me to say there's nothing to be hyped about, but maybe other people think there's a load of really great features coming into it. But it's interesting that other people have that view as well. Evening, hi everyone, Gaz as well. So I'm not going to say there's nothing to be hyped about. The storyline, I keep saying I think it's going to be a big storyline, just like Legion. Only this time, because I'm not going to be surprised this time, because Legion ended up being a bigger thing than I thought it was going to be at the start, and so I'm now expecting the same thing with BFA. I'm just expecting it. So, oh hell, I've lost that shit. Never mind. Buggering about with things. I've been trying to sort stuff out. I've been tidying up the drawers in my desk. I have a major project on. The problem is it's going to be too hot and I probably won't be able to do it, even though I've come up with a schedule because I'm off next week. I'm going to use the time next week to reorganise things and set up a painting station in the other room. So, yeah, I've been sorting through things, throwing rubbish out and stuff like that. Anyway, let's have a look. You're still not hyped at all for BFA. The story doesn't sound overly appealing. Oh, the story to me does sound it. It's just that I think they're keeping the main story in reserve. Like, the story that everyone keeps talking about is this Horde versus Alliance thing. I've said time and time again, I don't think that's the story. I think that's like the support act, basically, before the real band comes out. The systems and the class design have been very poor. Again, I have different views on that. I think what the Ret Paladin class designer has done, and he's done other ones as well, like Frostmage, is good. But it's those overriding, those parachute decisions that I call them, because they're basically dropped in, so the developers just have to deal with them. The ones that encompass everyone. Those are the ones that are controversial, at least, if not downright criticised. You're always hyped for a new expansion, no matter what's in it. I was saying this the other day, actually, I have a very different attitude. I suppose I look forward to the new expansion. But at the same time, I've not really minded the content droughts of the past few expansions. Now, when it happened in Cataclysm, all right, I was annoyed with that. There were a few reasons I was annoyed with that. One, I'd only just come back to the game. I came back to the game in time for Dragon Soul. So that was me having had a break of whatever, 2 years, something like that. And I was really ready to get back into it, and then suddenly no content for ages. So that was annoying for me personally. And the other thing was, it was unexpected. There hadn't been a content drought like that before. But now, you get into a nice little cycle. It's like you do the expansion's done and dusted, and then you have a nice long lead up because to do other things. Like, for example, I have been playing more Elder Scrolls Online. I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. I am just now, in fact, you'll have to tell me if anything's wrong with the stream. Hi, Emerald, by the way, and JD. I think it should be fine, but because at the moment I'm re-downloading Lord of the Rings Online again, as we're getting towards summer. I want to do something, but I actually want to do a project with the Lord of the Rings Online game, and I'm getting ready for that. Now, the problem is all these things that I would like to do and that I'm going to do. So with the Warhammer, with Lord of the Rings Online, Elder Scrolls Online, as soon as the expansion launches, there is a danger that I won't have time for them. And I'm getting to a point now where in the past, I was absolutely fine with World of Warcraft being my effectively one. It wasn't really my one hobby. Obviously, I enjoy read. I have science journals, stuff like that. I'm interested in science and other things. But in terms of the one I do, actually spend a decent amount of time in, and that everything else has to move aside for, that World of Warcraft was it. I'm now not happy with that. I now want other things. So I appreciate having a longer lead in. It wouldn't bother me at all if there were, because I don't think this is what we'd call an actual content drought. I think it would have been nicer to have had an extra story patch, not necessarily a new raid, But if they did a more, you know, another patch with the storylines or sort of some new quests, maybe a new dungeon, but not the raid, I think that would have been nicer just to finish it all off. But they haven't. But I still don't think it qualifies as a content drought, because although technically the tier is over now and Taurus is over, everything's still available for people who haven't completed it yet, but it's over in terms of how long Blizzard say a tier should be lasting for. We've only got 3 more months before the expansion comes out. 3 months lead in is not really a big deal. But yeah, so yeah, there's a, and I'm thinking to myself, so my guild already does quite a lot of raiding, like several days of raiding, and because we don't do things quickly, that means, like with some guilds, you might have 4 days raiding, but they might only raid for 2 months because it takes them 2 months to clear the content. And then the rest of the time, they're going to slowly get it on farm. Whereas our guild is going to basically take up that full amount of time. So we're always going to be raiding 4 nights a week. And then on the top of it, if I have to do Mythic plus dungeons, islands, world quests, you know, and potentially, I mean, Warfronts, okay, that's just once a week. But still, it's got to be included in there somewhere. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Anyway, let's have a look what the rest of you have been saying. So far, levelling in betas, you've been pretty happy with the Alliance quest. I'm very happy with both the Alliance and the Horde ones. I prefer the Alliance, but of course I do. But yeah, the questing is I think the questing is always good. They always do quite a good job of it. You know, there's somewhere it's a little bit tedious, but you get that in every expansion. The doom and gloom, no hype echo chamber exists before every expansion. No, it doesn't. You get some people that are dissatisfied with the, because the expansion brings with it change. But this is the thing. I've noticed something, like when you look at YouTube videos, here's what I'm noticing. There's no YouTube videos hyping stuff. The only like dramatic videos coming out that are anything to do with Battle for Azeroth are all speculation things. People basically making shit up because there's nothing to actually hype. What videos? I'm not seeing any videos going, oh, look at this new feature, it's brilliant. All the ones that's like, you know, really hyping, it's like, oh, there's this thing that someone said to Sylvanas, this might be what happens. And they go up. So it's all speculation at the moment, which is fun. Speculation is fun. But that's not hype. That's just, you know, because that's all there is to go on. But usually with expansions, people are really excited about a particular thing. You know, with Warlords of Draenor, okay, it was more the storyline, because, you know, not that many people were really hyped for characters, although some people thought it would be interesting. But and Legion, of course, all the artifact stuff, you know, as well as Mythic plus dungeons was a big thing to hype up. Not really seeing it here, but it might be a good thing, because it might mean that Azerite armor isn't such a big grind, and it might mean that that saves me some time. It might mean that Mythic plus dungeons don't become such a big thing that we need, and all the rest of it. So it's basically, hi Fraser, just, you know, what it is. You're disappointed everyone who didn't name the mailbox. Well, sorry, you know, it's 20. 20 is what's required. What are there for Warlock? Sorry. Hang on, have I missed something? You'd love to see me play Skyrim. That'll be a good trick. I don't have Skyrim and I have no intention of playing it. I play Elder Scrolls Online. Sometimes in Skyrim, there's the area. Oh, putting an H in there. I shall have to remember that one. What do you mean rise again? To rise again, you have to have risen in the first place. But I am disappointed at the moment that I still don't know what my weekly chores are going to be. I don't know what my weekly chores are going to be. And I've got it easy this expansion because I get 2 weeks. When the expansion launches, I've got 2 weeks before I have to go back to work. I've never had that. I've never had even a day to be able to play the expansion. It's always it's always come midweek or during the week when I've got work the same day. So you still don't have beta even after getting the seat. It's got nothing to do with the collector's edition. Getting beta isn't really anything to do with even having an active account. It's I've told you, it's all random apart from when you enter competitions. But remember, there's so many people. Actually, yeah, that was what it was. That was what the tweet was about. So Quinn was saying he's got some keys to give away. And then he was going, but does anyone even want them anymore? Again, that's what started all the old, there's not really much to hype about this. There's a lot of people feel that way. So, cutting edge. Oh, well, you missed it. So, but also, it doesn't, even when they do the cutting edge wave, it's not everyone with cutting edge that gets it. I remember for Legion, because I don't know if there's anyone in my guild that's got cutting edge that didn't get it. I'm not sure. There's not a lot of people active in it. But in Legion, the guild I was in at the time, when that wave went out, there were about 3 people who didn't get it. And never got it. They didn't get it all the way through beta either, which is hugely unfair. But I felt particularly guilty myself, because although I'd got the cutting edge, I hadn't progressed it. I hadn't actually progressed Archimond. I joined the guild after they'd already killed it, and I hadn't killed it in the previous guild. So the fact that someone who had didn't get it and I did, I felt bad about. Are Disney destroying the Star Wars franchise? Yes. Absolutely. They're but I mean, that's a different thing. We're not going to talk about Star Wars too much in this, but yes, they are. I think that's fairly clear. I don't mind the spin-offs. The spin-offs can be either good or bad. It makes no difference, it's spin-offs. But in terms of the main story, the main films, when it's supposed to be continuing the story, yeah. Half your raid team has it. Well, that's not actually very much then, is it? Usually it's a bit more than that. But I mean, it's limited numbers, isn't it? It's like you can only let so many in. They want to manage it. They left the cutting edge wave till quite late. By the time they'd done the cutting edge wave, there were so many people that had cutting edge that I suppose it was always going to be a much smaller proportion of those who had it that got in. But they go. I say we're in the point now as well where when it's beta, they're not that bothered. They're just after bug fixes, and all my comments really are about bugs. I'm just reporting bugs, effectively. There is something I want to say on professions, though. I might have to do a forum post on that, because we're getting quite late on now, and it's still not possible to properly test professions. No, not all professions anyway. Because if you need any reagents that you buy off a vendor, well, that vendor's not there. But there is another issue, and that the earlier patterns are too expensive. Like enchanting, you need shards to be to be creating the very low level enchants, which is silly. You should be able to, get your level up quite quickly to begin with, and then it should slow down as you need more and more expensive reagents, or rare reagents. I think it's the same thing, really, isn't it? What is the vendors? What the Horde have? I'm checking this out. Hold on. Right, this isn't good enough. Are you trying to tell me that there's a working vendor on the Horde side? I'm going to have to see this for myself. What do you mean, at least for blacksmith? Blacksmithing doesn't have any new reagents in BFA, does it? I think you're confused here. I think you're just a bit confused, because I don't think that blacksmiths have new reagents. But there is one easy way to find out, anyway. Because there is a vendor there. I'm not saying there isn't a profession vendor there. What I'm saying is it doesn't sell the BFA reagents. It sells other ones, which is no use to me. Right, I'm going to check anyway. I'm going to go into Zuldazar. And then we shall see. Because if there is, I'm definitely writing a forum post. It's appalling. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. I haven't customized all my add-ons on this Horde character yet. I only just started installing add-ons last weekend. Crap.
It is imperative we remain a step ahead of our rivals. Meet me outside Romish Hall. Keep this quiet, or the consequences will be swift and
Come on, jump off the thing. Oh no, it's not going to last until I'm going to die. Oh, I didn't die, it's fine. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. Crafters.
Best goods in the Empire, right here.
No, there's nothing new there. Is there? Oh, durable flux. Is that new? But anyway, that's not what I'm after. So, okay. Let's have a little look here. It's the one for tailoring I'm particularly interested in. The Alliance mail. I'm not interested in mailboxes. I can find another mailbox. See, at least the Alliance profession area is makes more sense because, like, I'm looking around this Horde one and I don't even know where the reagent vendor's even supposed to be because they're all so spread out, and there's a couple of indoor locations as well. Yeah, people have said about the demonology. I am going to give the demonology a try, possibly even this weekend, because I'm still doing my beta streams on Friday evening and Saturday afternoons. So maybe, you know, because I still need to sort out my, you know, alts, which ones are going to be the first ones on the chopping block. And, you know, Warlock, you know, I just traditionally don't like playing Warlock, but there are certain advantages to having one as a maintained alt. And that if I decide, and I may not, because you know, like I say, I've got my summer project, I've just been thrashing it out. I cannot see a bloody vendor. I cannot see a profession vendor. Do you know what? I don't reckon Horde have got one at all. Well, you may not get into the beta at all if you need that to decide whether to do your Warlock or your Hunter first. I mean, what does it depend on? Well, there's no, actually, no, what I own about, you won't need beta. I know it'd be nice to have it, but you won't actually need that because remember, you're going to get to play the classes for about a month before BFA launches anyway. So you get time to try out the expansion now. What do you mean? I don't need to. You saw me play Affliction. Behave. Affliction is rubbish. I hate Affliction. I just fundamentally dislike the tedium of multi-dotting, which is unfortunately one of the great strengths of a Warlock. Only one of them. They've got several. No, I'm not saying it. I think you're lying to me, or are mistaken, because I think it's actually got less in this Horde area than the Alliance have, because there's no vendor. So we're fine. It's all fine. The Alliance version's still better, but it's annoying that neither of them have that. If you could play Destro every fight. Well, Destruction's alright. Like, generally speaking, in the past, when I've decided that I don't like Affliction, I've tended to go with Destruction with my Warlock, except for this expansion where I haven't really played it much at all. Because it just plays more like a mage. You know, if I could have a mage that had all the benefits of being a Warlock, then that would be quite good. So, yeah, Destruction. In fact, Destruction in Mr. Pandaria I quite liked. I quite liked that. Because you had that toggle, didn't you, as well, between single target and AoE for certain abilities. I'm looking for the thread needed for tailors. And when it comes to it, some of the reagents needed for cooking as well. Cooking and tailoring is what I was trying to do some testing on. And, you know... that is actually one of the annoying things, I have to say, though, with being surrounded by an army of imps. Can do without that. But I'll give it a go. I'll give it a fair go. Because when it comes to main alt, I mean, there is a certain advantage in having something you can play when your main is not that great for that fight. Even though I really don't like getting into the idea of having an alt for progress raiding, but still, if that's the world we have to go in, to even be like World 500, which is not even that, then so be it. And obviously, a ranged character is better than a melee character for that reason. And obviously, one that you know is always going to be strong is also better. You know, warlocks are always useful. You know, no one ever says, oh, we don't need that many warlocks. No one ever says that. But yeah, so I'll probably give Demonology a go and see. But the issue with it is, okay, it's not a case of just going, oh yeah, I like Demonology, I'll stick with that. I have to also, just in case it's needed, make sure that I'm at least okay playing Affliction and okay playing Destruction, because, you know, you need to be able to keep them all up to a certain extent. But, you know, I keep thinking to myself, I'm already concerned that I might, as well as my normal raiding hours, have to dedicate time towards external things, you know, artifact power grinding, gear from Mythic Plus, stuff like that. To have to do all that on an alt as well doesn't appeal when there's other things I want to do, because I am going to get back into Warhammer. I do miss that, and I'll just have to hope that Age of Sigmar, the version 2, which is coming out next month. Okay, I don't know that Age of Sigmar as it is now is a bad version. I've just seen reviews, and what I've read about it sounds like it's the sort of thing I probably wouldn't like, but I don't know that. But hopefully version 2 is better. So that'll be my first version of it. So yeah, I'm going to be embarking effectively on a whole series of attempting some unboxings. I was supposed to be doing an unboxing yesterday, but I'm not happy at Amazon because my Somerset Collector's Edition never arrived. It has now been dispatched and it is arriving tomorrow. But that's annoying because I'd set everything up, you know, I'd had a little area, got the camera all set up, and then didn't bloody well arrive. Without any warning either, without so much as a message until, you know, the day itself, and it's too late to do anything about it. And it was particularly annoying when I tweeted as well, and Amazon said, yeah, well, you know, feel free to cancel the order and get it somewhere else. I'm thinking, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. Where am I going to go and get it at this point? In the next half an hour. Thanks very much. Oh, you'll be picking yours up. Well, what annoyed me was, like, I pre-ordered this over a month ago. Now, if they didn't have a copy that they could earmark for me, there should have been a message saying, oh, you'll actually be on a waiting list. You know, we'll hopefully get more in. Then it would have been fine. But no, I'd ordered it and everything's hunky-dory. Even at the weekend, on Saturday, I checked, because I thought, I wonder if they dispatch it, you know. And I checked and it just basically said awaiting dispatch. And I thought, oh, well, you know, it's going to arrive on Monday, so I suppose they dispatch it on Sunday. So I didn't bother even checking it on Sunday because it all seemed fine. Awaiting dispatch means we're just, you know, getting ready to give it to the courier. And then Monday, and the only reason I checked it on Monday is not because I doubted it. It's just because I thought, oh, crap. You know, because I got it to be delivered to work because that's where I was. But then I thought, well, what if it... Because these days with Amazon, it can be delivered anything up to like 7, 8 o'clock at night. I thought, well, that's no good. So I'll check estimated time of arrival. And it basically said, yeah, we ain't got a copy for you. Sorry. You know, we'll let you know. We'll let you know when we're thinking about sending one. Oh. And then, of course, I mean, this was, this is just one of those things, I suppose. So I was actually trying to stream it last night as well, and then it all crashed. The EU servers basically crashed after about an hour and a half, something like that. So it was sort of okay. But I guess that's the sort of thing. Oh, Valentin, hiya, thank you very much. If you're here, that is. I think it actually does randomly do that, even if people aren't actually in the stream and they do that. So yes, so I'm going to be doing that. I might even, because I've just realised, because when I was ordering the Elder Scrolls Online one, I was thinking to myself, do you know what? It's ages since I've bought a physical collector's edition of anything. It's like years. I can't remember the last time. I really can't remember the last time. And I've never bought a World of Warcraft physical collector's edition. I only started getting collector's editions at all when it was digital. So I'm also going to get the physical collector's edition for BFA this time, just because I realised I've never got one for World of Warcraft before, like ever. And maybe I should. It's just that it's never really seemed like having anything of major interest in the World of Warcraft ones. The most interesting things seems to be the digital ones. Well, I'm quite happy. I mean, if I play the game, by definition for me, because I don't play lots and lots of games casually, I play very few games. So by definition, I'm happy to get collector's editions for all of them. It's just that, I mean, art books are nice. I do quite like decent art books. But you can get quite a lot of World of Warcraft art in separate books. Like for Cataclysm, for example, I have an art book for that. I have an art book for WoD as well that I got not as part of a collector's edition. I just bought it as a separate book that you could just buy and add loads of stuff, and it's brilliant. The best part about Warlords of Draenor, in fact, really, is the art book you could actually get. So I've got, I'm actually been tidying my bookshelves at the moment because it's all a bit of a mess. Because I have two bookcases. I have one downstairs, which has all my serious books on it. And then I have one in my bedroom, which has all my fantasy stuff on it. So at the moment, it's all over the place. So I'm going to be sorting that out. It's one of my jobs next week to actually put that in proper categories. So your Warhammer there and, and World of Warcraft stuff there and Star Wars stuff there and Lord of the Rings stuff there and whatever else, A small section for Elder Scrolls Online because I only have a couple of books for that. And actually put, I've got some models, like when the Lord of the Rings films came out, obviously there were collector's editions things for that. So I've got like the Golem statue, which is very nice. I've got the Argonath, although one of them missing its hand because I was a bit careless and it said they were bookends. So I used them as bookends. Unfortunately, there isn't enough weight to them to use them as bookends. So the books went like that and one of them flew off the bookshelf. The mantelpiece, I should say, sorry. So, one of them's missing its hand. I think it was too far gone for me to make a bodge job at gluing it back on, although I can't remember. And then there's a really nice trinket box of Minas Tirith that you got with the Return of the King one. So, when you get stuff like that with a collector's edition, then I do get it. It's just that, when I've looked at stuff over the last few years, I've looked at it and gone, some of the collector's editions have been quite nice, but I didn't get the games when it first came out, so therefore, obviously, I didn't get the collector's editions. But, but yeah, the WoW ones have never really seemed worth getting for the physical stuff in it. In fact, what do you even get? Does anyone know what you actually get in the BFA? Let's have a look. Hold on. I'll have a little look what you get. Amazon, yeah. Oh no, you don't get a real mount. That's not a physical thing. That's digital. I've got that already. I've already got the digital collector's editions. It's the physical stuff I'm interested in. Let's have a look here. So, you get Collector's Edition Digital Soundtrack Key. See, the use of the word key I don't like, because that means you don't get a thing. You get a code. Elegy and Good War double-sided book, whatever the hell that is. Horde and Alliance double-side Mark of Allegiance. Oh, yeah, so a coin. Okay, I see. Oh, I hope that's not life-size, because that looks a bit big to me. Oh, no, you do get... So you get digital soundtrack. You get... It says Elegy and Good War double-side book, whatever the hell that is. And then I like the last bullet point, epic in-game content. Yeah. So, yeah, it looks like, yeah. So it's got the Stormwind line on one side and the Horde shield on the other. I'd like to see a close-up of that, actually. It looks a bit crap on the photo I'm looking at on Amazon. But, I don't know. It looks a bit... It doesn't look real somehow. But then that's because it has been photoshopped to do that weird thing with it. So I don't know. I don't know whether... It just says digital soundtrack. It comes in a case that looks like it might have a CD in it. It just worried me that it says Collector's Edition Digital Soundtrack Key. It was the use of the word key there that's making me think that maybe it doesn't have a physical disc. But that would be a strange decision, wouldn't it? If you're going to have a physical collector's edition, why would you not just give them a CD? Apart from anything else, some people still have systems that need a physical CD. Oh, the medal's about 4 inches across, is it? Jesus Christ. It'd be better if it was just a good quality coin, wouldn't it? Well, I think it would anyway. I'll get it. I'll get it. What the hell? Hopefully this book is interesting. But I don't really know. All it says is double side mark. No, sorry. I don't know what even this is. ELEGY. What the hell that is. And Good War double side book. I guess that's a bit of a... I don't know whether it's like a graphic novel or something. Maybe. They removed the art. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about an art book, does it? I mean, usually they... As I say, I've got an art book for a couple of the expansions anyway. I never got one for Legion. There's only so many times you need to see their... sketches of demons. But they were quite... I don't mind getting that separately. But I just think, yeah, with the collector's edition, you do like the idea of getting an art book. Oh, it is an art book, is it? Oh, right. Oh, okay. I'm now semi-disappointed. I was thinking it'd be a graphic novel and maybe I could get an art book separately. So now it's just an art. I've gone from thinking I could get a graphic novel and an art book, and now it's just going to be an art book. But never mind. Well, I don't know what you get with physical collector's edition. I know art book is very likely to be one of them, and hang on a minute. Hold on. Your link. Sorry, you can't post links, but. I'll get it anyway. Whatever. What the hell? I'm going to be spending so much money this summer anyway. What the hell's another 90 quid? It better be a hell of an art book though, because I really don't. I mean, I'll wait and see, but I'm not sure what am I going to even do with a medal 4 inches across? Really, what? You didn't post a link. All I've got is a message saying it's sort of an art deleted link novel. So Twitch seems to think you you entered a link. Sorry. I don't know. But it doesn't matter because I'm going to do as I say. I'm going to when Somerset does come out. So it's probably not tomorrow because I'm really prepared for doing it tomorrow. I'll wait. It's probably I don't know when I'll do it. Sometime at the weekend. So I'll do my first unboxing. The Elder Scrolls Online one was supposed to be a little tester. And then we'll see how that goes. Because, you know, obviously unboxings can be a load of crap and they can be good. So obviously I shall try and err on the side of making it at least interesting. We'll see. You get a nice little statue in the Elder Scrolls Online one. At least. But yeah, I have got myself a load of projects. And I'm not going to mess it up this summer. Because last summer, I made myself a schedule of things to do. Like my project for summer. And it was all laid out. My whole plan. My master plan. And then I got to summer itself. And I just abandoned it. I thought, no, I'm going to change it. But instead of changing the plan, I just do my own thing. And I was incredibly inefficient and unproductive. Whereas I've got a lot of things. Excuse me, I need to get done. But, you know, it's coming out at a nice time from that point of view. 4 weeks of summer to have time to do everything non-WoW that I want to do and still produce the guides that I want to produce for BFA. And at the same time, 2 weeks to then play it while still not at work. You're doing some clean-up and prep work in game right now. Oh, right, I see. Yeah, well, that's... As soon as I decide in what order I'm going to be leveling characters, that's what I need to do as well. Because the first character I level... Or, well, because I've not got work, I've got a bit of flexibility over this. But should we say I need to level a character in the first few days that has herbalism and mining? I need the mining because my main is a blacksmith. And although I'm going to have some money saved up to be able to buy the super expensive ore, I'd like to be able to get my own at some point. And herbing, of course, because, you know, that's going to be expensive. And I'm going to need to sort out the alchemy and inscription. So, but yes, well, that's my plan for when the pre-expansion patch comes out. When the pre-expansion patch comes out, then I will go through my bank and my bags and I will destroy all the stuff. Because as far as I'm concerned, as soon as the pre-expansion patch comes out, I'm not doing any Legion content apart from, well, the guild's not even intended to raid then. But if it were, I would obviously still raid. But that aside, not at all. Any, you know, what was I going to say now? Any enchanting materials I probably want to get rid of sooner while they can still be sold for something. Because they become worthless as soon as it goes live. You're working on the last little bit of gold, you need to get your auction house mount. I'm not going to be as much of a rush for that. Because... but I will aim to get that, yeah. So I will be getting an auction house mount. I'm not sure whether I will really wait until I get exalted. I can see myself buying it before I get exalted, actually. So I might have to budget for 5 million rather than just 4 million. But it also depends, because I'm not... Whenever I need gold to buy BOEs, I'm not going to be getting it, just in case. Because obviously that's the top priority. The top priority is BOEs. Evening, Eris. Is hay still going to be a broken stat? Yes, for some it is, yes. Because that has nothing to do with trinkets. Well, not as much. I mean, that's more to do with the DPS cooldowns, the throughput cooldowns. But we'll just have to see. Maybe they'll amend some of those DPS cooldowns more. You're at 4. I'm on about 4.5 million at the moment. Yeah, well, I'm more of a buyer on the auction house. I don't really use the auction house at all. I just buy WoW tokens when I need stuff. Oh yeah, I never do the gambling in raids. That's just asking for trouble. If you do it for long enough, you don't really win overall. The only person who ever wins at that is the one who does it once, wins 100,000 gold, and then never does it again. Although the problem is, I mean, sometimes I have been tempted, I have to admit. But then I've thought to myself, let's say I win quite a lot. I would feel morally obligated to do it again, because I wouldn't like to be the person that took a load of money and then never did it again, because then you'd feel bad. But the problem then is you just, you know, it's guaranteed lose, because then you always have to do it. So I'll just steer clear of that and never do that. Because, especially as I can't be arsed farming gold. So I'm paying for it in real money. So I might as well limit that. You need to find a decent source of income. Well, it depends. Like, well, alchemy is a decent source of income. You just have to remember to put your stuff on about half an hour before most people raid. You know, putting it on early evening on Wednesdays is a good time to put flasks on. And buying, if you buy the herbs yourself rather than do the herbing, buying it at the weekend seems to be best in my limited experience. Because I think it's when most people are on and farming and putting their stuff on, and not as many people raiding, so not as much demand for it. So I think by buying it at the weekend and then selling your flasks and potions just before raid time, when you've got all those desperate people who just need some potions and flasks really quickly, that works out pretty well. Yeah, well, there's different ways to do it. Of course, you can. Someone was saying about, on one of the replies to my videos, making a sky golem. So the thing for that is you need the mists of Pandaria metals, and there's like a daily transmute thing you can do on it to get the metal you need. I thought about doing that at one time, but I kept forgetting. But that's another way to do it, because that's something most people can't be arsed doing. And sky golems are really useful because, you know, it's got the herbing thing going on. If it could mine as well without dismounting, it'd be perfect. If the personal loot is going to be forced upon us on all difficulties, what in my view is the best way to deal with it is a raiding guild. It is tricky. I think the best way initially is that you have a proper discussion about it. I think what guilds should be doing before the expansion goes live is saying, is having a debate about it, getting everyone in there, put forward some proposals and get everyone to sort of say their feelings on it, pros and cons. And then remember, if your guild is still raiding during the pre-expansion patch period, you get to try it out as well. In fact, to be honest, I'd be in favour of trying it out now. You know, assuming you're not progressing. Like our guild stopped progressing. We're just farming. And we used personal loot on the last boss, but that's really just to be fair with the mount. But we still use master loot on the other bosses. I'd be just in favour of just sticking it on personal loot. But there's ultimately two ways you do it. Either you still do it as a master loot would, with more hassle, because it's an artificial master loot. So you say, anyone that's got anything tradable, pass it to me. I imagine someone will come up with an add-on that flags things. Because we already got add-ons, haven't we? We had that in Legion that says, oh, such and such can trade this item. So I imagine there'll be one that's specifically designed for progress raid guilds. Just to say, right, you give me those items now. So you pass them over to the master looter and then they distribute them as normal. There are ways, obviously, to fiddle it. We've already talked about this. People might not loot the boss because there's no real way of you telling if someone's looted the boss or not. If it doesn't drop a quest item, then you can't tell if, because you only need one person to loot the boss for everyone to get their gold. People could play silly buggers in the hope of sneaking any loot out in the mailbox later. I suppose what you could do, if an officer really wanted to spend the time doing it, is keep monitoring people's armories and inspecting them, and if they suddenly see a new piece of gear on them that wasn't there before, asking some questions. So that could have that source of drama that people will try and get out of looting bosses. But there's another sort of drama if you just say, do you know what, it's your loot, deal with it yourself, in that you then get a load of horse trading going on. And you might... I remember a situation in vanilla where basically our rogues... It's always bloody rogues at the source of all drama, isn't it? If not gnomes. And our rogues had a situation whereby they were horse trading. Because our DKP system, which is what a lot of people use then, there's always different variations of it. The DKP system worked as follows. It wasn't a bidding DKP system as such. It was this item cost this DKP. If no one bid on it, we would reduce the price of it to a secondary value, but then that was it. If no one wanted it, it was disenchanted. Well, when disenchanting became a thing on epics, that wasn't there to begin with. So what happened was basically the rogues, trying to be crafty, would say, well, I'll tell you what, the next time between themselves they would agree who was going to bid when certain items dropped, so they could get it at the reduced price, and therefore get to steal all the loot that was cross class that they wanted, which was not actually that much when you think about it. But anyway, so they did that, and then one time it was alleged by one of the rogues that another rogue had reneged on their deal and had bid on something that was supposed to be just for them to bid on. And they were complaining to us. And we had the view, as officers that is, and we had the view that no, we're not encouraging those deals. Those deals shouldn't happen. In fact, that deal is, you're trying to circumvent our own DKP rules by even coming up with such a deal. So you deal with it yourself. But there was drama. And I can see the same drama here. People sort of, pleading with someone because that's a really big upgrade for them, and them saying, if I ever get something that's not a big upgrade for me, but it is for you, then you can have that. And then when the time comes, maybe they don't. So I can see drama either way. You're on Master Loot for farm because we have a few people switching classes, so need to help them out with gear. I mean, people still can. It's just I'd be in favour of just keeping it on Master Loot. I mean, if you've farmed the whole thing, if it's all on farm, who needs loot? I mean, it's nice to have. I'm already well past the point where I'm going to blitz the levelling. Easy. I'm not going to notice the difference between what I'm wearing now, which is a significant upgrade on what I was wearing when I first killed Argus, and what I might be wearing when we actually do start levelling. Unless I get Amonthul's. Quite like Amonthul's still. Someone could definitely come with an add-on saying X person hasn't looted yet. Could they? What indicator? I don't know. See, this is I don't know, Gaz. Is there what indicator is there that someone hasn't looted something if you don't get an item off it? Because remember, you don't need to loot it to get your gold. Only one person needs to loot, and the gold is shared out amongst everyone that was eligible. So I'm not saying that there isn't a way, but I don't know that there would be a way. It's in the guild info once they get out of the mailbox. I don't know that it is. I think we've had this discussion before, and I can't remember what the upshot of it was. I don't know that it is in the guild info if someone loots something from a mailbox. Doesn't the tooltip have the lootable by X person thing already? I don't know. If that's the case, then okay, maybe yeah, you insist that everyone loots it. I mean, there's going to be issues either way. I just see there being issues both ways. There's going to be drama both ways. The sensible guilds, of course, will eventually move past it and, will adapt. And everything will just sort of settle down. But not everyone's sensible. Oh, no, Blizzard won't do anything about it. Blizzard are the ones who want to put the enforced personal loot in. They're not going to do anything that helps us circumvent their own rules, because that's what this false master loot system would be. It would be us saying to Blizzard, we don't like your system. We're going to carry on using the old one as far as possible. So Blizzard are not going to help you do that at all. Think Blizzard. Well, you say there's bound to be code in the system that indicates if the add-on can interact with it. I think the add-on works on seeing what people looted. I mean, you may be right. It might be that there's something that indicates when someone has and hasn't looted. I don't know. You think Blizz will have to let guilds figure out, because if they make a rule in one go, they have to do it for absolutely everyone. Well, I understand what you mean about people filling tickets in and things like that. But Blizzard, yeah, Blizzard. I just do not see Blizzard lifting a finger to help people go back to a pseudo master loot system, because they could have just allowed master loot, at least in mythic mode. Someone turns in a ticket complaining they were forced to give away their loot for a master loot system. Would Blizzard take disciplinary actions on the guild? No, because no one can force you. You can't physically be forced to hand over your loot without someone hacking you. So no. What you mean is that they felt compelled. Well, sorry, they were following the rules of the guild. If they don't like the rules of the guild, they should leave the guild. No one's forcing them to be with that guild. It's the same as anything, isn't it? If you want to be part of a team, you agree to follow the rules of the team. If you don't agree with the rules of the team, then that ain't the team for you. But yeah, there's all sorts of... I mean, it's a very, very new system. Every expansion brings with it something major that changes how raiding works. It's always very interesting that every expansion brings a game changer when it comes to raiding. And this, I guess, is what it is for BFA. As if there weren't already things. I mean, the fact that Tier's going and we're getting Azeroth instead, I suppose, is another game changer. But all I could think of from a practical point of view is I think guilds should discuss it with the wider guild. I don't think it's something that officers should just discuss amongst themselves. If they want to discuss it amongst themselves to come up with proposals and then put those proposals out to be discussed, that's fine. But there definitely should be some proper discussion of it. I don't think guilds want to be walking into it blind. You fear that Blizzard would not want to lose face on the personal loot issue and was stuck with it. Well, that's always the issue. You know, whenever they finally work out that an idea was bad, one of two things happens. The major thing will be, if they, unless there's an open revolt, in which case they can't do anything about it. But that's like the flying thing. But all these other controversial things don't affect enough people. The flying affected everyone. Yeah, this doesn't affect enough people. So, but yeah, so they'll either try and find a way to just quietly change it back or change it to a third option. Or, yes, they will just stick with it. Now, in this particular case, they can't quietly reintroduce Master Loot in the following expansion. There's no such thing as quietly reintroducing something. They might try and go for a third system. Or they might just think to themselves, because I don't think it's going to fundamentally hurt anything. You know, mythic raiding will still be there and people will still do mythic raiding. I don't think it's going to cause a crash in the number of people doing mythic raiding. That's the only thing that could even give them pause for thought. I just think it's going to create more drama. But drama is not guild drama is not something that shows up on Blizzard's radar, because that doesn't spill out into the wider community or anything. It's personal to that guild. For most people who do not play the game at the elite level, that personally it's not a big deal at all. Well, no, indeed it's not, because even if you're progressing heroic, there's so many more things you can do beyond distributing loot more efficiently to help kill bosses more quickly. But there are too few. Yeah, at the end where, you know, people are opposed to it, there's too few. And also another thing you notice is more serious raiders tend to be more absent from forums as well, so they tend not to have their say really very much. Occasionally, I mean, you'll notice Method only was it last week? I think it was last week, wasn't it? Talked about the GCD changes. You know, after weeks, they finally said something about it. In fact, I've actually noticed Method producing some discussion videos of late. It's almost like they're trying to make YouTube videos. Well, that's an interesting point, Higpig, with the world PvP while flying is a thing. I mean, certainly by the time flying comes in, I won't be in war. I don't expect to be in war mode for level cap content at all, unless I'm playing at a silly off-peak time, and by that time, you know, maybe also in very high level raid gear and can look after myself against anything other than an actual dedicated death squad. Because I just, you know, it's not something I enjoy, and I don't think it's worth it. But for leveling, I may. But yeah, for people who do like it, for people who want to do the world PvP, I can only imagine what it's going to be like with flying. But, you know, we've got flying now. We've technically got world PvP now. People, I suppose, will just have to deal with it. I mean, I imagine it encouraging people to form groups. And if it does that, you could argue it's a good thing. Oh, the dismount. There's been dismount items in the game before, hasn't there? 100-yard range. I think the issue with flying, though, is not evading world PvP. It's dive bombing. It's swooping in on unsuspecting prey. So, because I mean, apart from anything else, if you can easily fly more than 100 yards up, can't you? That's not a problem. I think the issue with flying in world PvP is using it as an attack rather than a defense. Rogues can just hide by an area where people are flying, dismount them, and take away 90% of their life, then one-shot them. What, like they do now, indeed. You get the same sort of thing now with people camping flight points and stuff like that. And you do get people, you know, dismounting others as well in areas where they know there's a decent chance of some people flying out. Hang on, what's this? Guilds who won't kill the final boss per tier, but it will be in the mid with half bosses killed per raid tier. What's that about, Frozen? Sorry if I missed something. Not getting the context of that. Well, JD, the issue is that you say there's plenty of XP to hit max, even if you split it all the way through the zones. There's a massive amount of XP on offer. You know, like I say, I was able to level up in 2 zones, missing the third one out, basically. I did like a couple of quests in it just to finish it off. But I think it's important to do the major quest lines in each zone. I just think it's going to be needed for work to unlock stuff like world quests. Like, it's not at the moment in the beta, but I just think it will be. The only change with it is it'll inflate the number of mythic casual guilds. Oh, I see what you mean. Well, I won't call it casual just because you don't get cutting edge. I mean, mythic raiding still requires a certain amount of preparation, especially if you're killing half the bosses, then you're killing more than just the easier bosses as well at the start. But I mean, things like this, we'll just have to see how it works out. Blizzard are basically making a massive change to something. And they're making a massive change specifically to gear distribution. And gear distribution is the main carrot that Blizzard use, which I keep saying they don't need to, but they do anyway. It's their main carrot for content in the game. So obviously when it's a very gear-centered game and you massively change the way gear is distributed, there's obviously going to be a shake-up. And we'll just have to see how the dust settles after the first, 6 months, say. We'll just have to see what the new behaviour is. And it's easy to imagine what it might be, but I think very difficult to predict what it will be. You don't think having more people doing high-level raid is necessarily a bad thing? No, I think it's a great thing. It's the only thing that stops me being blood and guts against Titan Forging. You know, I don't like Titan Forging. I think a lot of Mythic Raiders don't like Titan Forging. But Titan Forging was the game changer in Legion for raiding. Because I am convinced the reason why we've had a massively increased number of guilds raiding Mythic in Legion in a way that didn't happen in WoD is because Titan Forging means that by the time you've got a handle on Heroic, your gear is better than the stuff that drops off the first few bosses, which means you can push past... You can basically use the power of your gear to get past a few mechanics, to have an easier time of it, basically. So I just think it's made the access to Mythic a bit more straightforward. Obviously, at some point, you're going to come to the bosses where it's not going to help you so much. But, you know, it helps people get into it. And once you've killed a few bosses, maybe there's the desire then to actually, you know, do better, learn the mechanics better, change the attitude from, you know, what works for Heroic to what needs to work for Mythic, you know, and go from there. You think if we can get people to Mythic, you might be able to make an argument for removal of LFR? No, I don't think so. It's totally different. Even Heroic Raiders are not the people that LFR is designed for. The people that LFR is designed for are the ones who do not raid any other mode. Now, we know that there's a load of people in LFR that do raid other modes, and I think that's also essential. I think Blizzard needs raiders in LFR to make it, not only to have nicer queues, but to mean it's you know, better. If anything, if there's going to be a difficulty removed, then for my money, the only one where there's an argument for it is normal mode. You know, if you got rid of normal... I find it very difficult to make an argument for normal mode raiding. And if you want to drop it from 4 to 3 modes, I think normal is the one to go. I think 4 difficulties is too many as well. But but LFR serves a purpose. Normal, the only purpose I see normal actually serving is allowing people's alts to do easy pug runs. Well, I don't think Blizzard need to encourage pugs. I don't think they should hamper them, but I think they should encourage people to join guilds to raid in. You know, I think ultimately people's first option for raiding, which is supposedly the most complex group activity you can do in the game, should be therefore to do it in a guild. The whole purpose of a guild is to find a group of people with common purpose. So the whole point of doing stuff in a pug is just works against, you know, what I think should be encouraged. If they're going to do something akin to the legendary essence, then LFR is pretty solid. Well, I don't see any outlet for that for this one. But no, people, you know, LFR, as I say, serves people that are never going to do their normal heroic mythic. But the people who do normal will, even if they're doing pugs in alts in pugs even, sorry, will still want to do heroic after that when they've geared up a bit. So normal is a stepping stone. You know, LFR serves its own audience, heroic serves its own audience, mythic serves its own audience. And it's nice if people jump from one to the other. Well, preferably upwards, not down. But normal doesn't really serve anyone extra. You're concerned that communities are going to destroy guilds? I wouldn't be concerned about that at all, JD. I think communities is Blizzard's way of trying to get control back from Discord. You know, it was one thing when people had, you know, when guilds have their own private forums and when they had their own voice com, stuff like that. Discord means that people are having too much guild chat in a way that can't be monitored by Blizzard. I think this is a way of them saying, well, we could do our own Discord, basically, and people will use it and it'd be great. And maybe it will be great, but I think it needs work. But I think it's just about getting people into it where they can monitor it all. LFR with no items in it. It's a loot-driven game. The whole premise of World of Warcraft, it rewards everything with loot. I mean, that's what it does. You know, I wish it didn't, but it does. So any content you create has loot as a reward. You think it will have a negative impact on guilds? We'll see. Well, yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see. It's like anything. You put in something major that, you know, obviously it's going to have an effect on the community's behaviour. We'll just have to see how that behaviour ends up going. I would still like Blizzard, as I've said before, to come up with a really effective guild finder and guildee finder tool. Works both ways. So guilds can put on profiles of what they're looking for and what sort of guild they are, and people can also put, you know, themselves on as well. You know, that would be quite a nice system. But that's why the fact that they're not doing that very obvious thing at the moment, and maybe they will, but the fact that that's not one of the things on their immediate to-do list with these communities suggests to me that it's not actually about community. Because you know, if I was if someone said to me, if I worked at Blizzard and they said to me, right, Phil, go and do something with the communities, bring them together. The first thing I would do is go, right, what we really need to do is encourage more people to get involved in guilds and help them to find guilds of people with common purpose, because that is the best experience in MMO, in my opinion. Because then it's much more like a team game, which is much more satisfying than a rat race, which is what it otherwise becomes. Because pugs are basically like a rat race. You go in there, the gear that drops, you want to maximize your chance of getting that gear for yourself. Whereas in a guild group, well, for some people at least, it's about, you know, helping everyone because the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Oh, it's taken ages to download this Lord of the Rings Online. But yeah, again, there's so many things about BFA. I'm thinking we're 3 months away now, less than 3 months away. And there's so many things, and I don't expect to know how everything's going to work when it goes live. I almost don't know how anything's going to work when it goes live. Need to remove some of those ridiculous skills that have 4 separate chapters. And just spam everyone with invites. Well, what's the purpose of those anymore? Because obviously they emerged with when there were rewards for guilds. So basically the guild bank got money whenever you as a member of that guild looted anything. You didn't lose any money yourself. Some extra gold was generated and went into the guild bank. So obviously people did that just to raise funds, picking on new players who didn't know that they were being abused, basically. But now that that's gone, and I do think it's a shame that they had to just completely get rid of that feature. Again, it's another one where Blizzard just took the sledgehammer to it. They identified a problem, except this time we'll agree there was a problem. And they took a sledgehammer to it. And I think, you know, if they'd have tied gold rewards to the guild bank to... I mean, there is a little bit you can get, but it's pathetic. You know, to like completing content that needs to be done in a guild group. So, you know, dungeons, which, okay, you get a little bit from, but it's rubbish. And raids and stuff like that. You know, that might have been better then. But yeah, so yeah, all these cesspool guilds, I don't know what they get out of it anymore. I really don't know what the benefit is for people doing this. What do they get? Does anyone tell me? The emergent gameplay that will come from this expansion is going to be very exciting to watch. It's certainly going to be interesting. And like with any change, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And I'm looking at it, wondering which one I'm going to be. It's all right. If I end up being a loser, I can end up having getting into like that when my Warhammer starts taking off again. When you have a guild of that size, you can monetize it in some way, but how? Ads on a guild. Well, would those sort of people really use a guild website though? Well, you say if you're a lock auto winner per usual. I mean, possibly. There should be a reasonable number of cloth users in the raid. There should be a reasonable number of casters. So I suppose the loot that a Warlock wants should be plentiful. Oh, God, I hope you're not talking about bloody tuning. Pay no attention. Oh, my God. Pay no attention to any DPS charts you may have seen. They are 100% horseshit. And they are 100% rubbish. Not just because tuning hasn't happened, which it hasn't. Tuning has not happened. But that's not the only reason any comparison charts you may have looked at are a load of rubbish. The reason is because none of the classes and specs have got really accurate models yet. I mean, I know that the Ret Paladin one, which is worked on, you know, is one of the better ones in terms of getting stuff working more quickly, still has some issues with it because there's some things in game with abilities not working as they're supposed to be. And that's not just us guessing at that. That's the developer themselves saying, oh yeah, that's not supposed to work like that, and that's not supposed to work like that, and that's not supposed to work like that. So you can't even go by logs or anything like that as well. There's nothing you can go by to compare the classes at the moment. And anyone who even attempts it is a fool. So you've got no idea. The only thing about Warlocks is, you know, they're always strong. There are certain classes that are always strong. Warlocks will always be strong. You know, Rogues will always be strong. Mages will always be strong. Hunters and Boomkins are usually desirable. And then after that, you know, I suppose you're going to want a Demon Hunter, a Monk, and a Warrior at least for, you know, the class buffs. Pure DPS classes will always have one strong spec indeed, yes. Yeah. So there'll always be something that is very powerful. Plus, they get the option, if something's very powerful on one fight and another on another, they get the option, okay, it's a bit more work to get the gear for it. Although at least they don't have to get extra artifact power this time. You know, they can switch spec. You would argue that for PvE tuning, Legion was one of the best, if not the best, tuning of all the expansions. Well, you can only argue that on the basis that they themselves get better at it. There was nothing fundamentally about Legion that did that. It's just that each expansion, they not only do they get better, but the community gets better at advising Blizzard as well, because there's a lot of discussion takes place between the theory craft, a lot of discussion. Some people, I think, don't appreciate this, between the theory crafters and the developers. They don't always listen to the theory crafters, but at least they can't say they didn't know about certain things. As the more casual players, it seems that right now the state of the game is such that the more skilled players do more DPS than others. Well, that, you know, would always have been the case. You know, these ideas about, oh, such and such is so face roll to play, is always a load of rubbish. There's always subtleties to every spec. Even, you know, there are some specs that are very accessible to play at a basic level without working much at it, like Beastmaster and Assassination Rogue. But at the same time, you know, the best players will still get much more out of it because there's subtleties to all of them. But, I mean, I know for Ret Paladins in the next expansion, there's going to be quite a lot of subtlety to it, potentially. Just because the talents looks like it's possible to tune the talents very, very close to each other. Oh, you seem to be talking about PvP now. No one cares about that. All I know is whatever class they are, if they try and gank me, 90-odd% of them will die. Not because I'm a better player, but because I've got a bloody big sword, which they did not pay attention to before deciding to pick on me. AoE was really good in Legion. There's no reason to suppose it won't be good in BFA as well. It's just, you know, there's still like I say, tuning hasn't happened yet. As long as the key issue is when they're designing a spec is, are the tools there to allow for tuning to deal with any issues? And if the answer is yes, then it is. The only issue I now have is, well, I had a big issue with class buffs when they first announced them, because some class buffs were obviously always going to be better than others. So there'll be some that would be useful on every fight, and so obviously you'd always want that person. Some of them would be useful on some fights, so you'd want that person but only on those fights. And some of them wouldn't be useful at all, or wouldn't be predictably useful, shall we say. So therefore not worth taking. But the problem now is that there's only a few class buffs. You know, fewer than half of the classes have class buffs now. And it's, although they haven't said officially that that's where it's stopping, the scuttlebutt appears to be that's where it's stopping. And that, you know, maybe they will decide to bring in some class buffs later on in the expansion. But when it goes to launch, what we've got is what we're getting. Whereas some things in previous expansions just were impossible to tune. Like for Ret Paladin's Crusade as a talent was impossible to tune. And they knew this. They tried it before it went live. And it didn't matter what they did to it, how they adjusted the tuning knob. Yeah, it either went so good you always took it, which is what we ended up with, or you just turn it just slightly down and it becomes worse than taking no talent at all. It was not possible to get it on a par with what it was sharing that talent row with. It also didn't help that one of the talents on that talent row was useless. Just the whole concept of it was pointless. Oh, you're talking about meters in raids, not PvP, I see. Oh yeah, well, Paladins, yeah, people have said this. Paladins indeed were the original buff class when you think about a Paladin in other games as well. Although Blizzard would argue they don't have to base their Paladins on Paladins in other fantasy role-playing games. But when you have them, they are well known for being a bit of a jack of all trades, not necessarily a master in anything, but jack of all trades, i.e. a support class. Whereas now, they don't really have that. We've got Greater Blessing of Wisdom. Greater Blessing of Wisdom is the desirable thing. That's it. That's basically it, yeah. So there are other classes that have multiple utility tools. And we've, like... It's gone. We used to have loads. We used to have, you know, about half a dozen different blessings. We had judgments. I mean, we've still got the judgment spell, but it doesn't actually debuff the target with something that the rest of the raid benefits from. It's all gone. But anyway, there you go. That's unfortunately the way of it. We'll just have to adapt and hope that that overall the raids don't. My main hope at the moment is that raids are not excessively melee unfriendly, because if they are, I struggle. I just see Rets having a hard time of it. I'm sure the damage will be fine. The damage is always fine. But I don't believe that there will be enough, like Blessing of Protection, for example. I don't believe there's going to be a significant number of fights, because there never is, where that's going to be useful. For dungeons, it's fine, but you know, I don't really care about dungeons that much. They're just a pleasant distraction for me. What if the class buff for Paladins to give back Blessing? Well, Sol Sakura did suggest. Sorry, going into rep mode at the moment here. Did actually suggest that. A good version of Blessing of Might, though. Not the crap version that we got at Start of Legion. That had to be abandoned as soon as Blizzard realised how bad it was. Even though I told them 10 months earlier. But never mind. But, I mean, it's just got... We're not getting it. Simple as that. So... we just have to hope for melee friendly bosses. If the tough bosses are melee friendly, because that's what matters, not the majority of bosses, because the majority of bosses don't matter what you bring. Okay, there's always a best composition to bring for every boss, but for some bosses it doesn't really matter. Like, what's the difference between wiping on a boss once or wiping twice before you kill it? Not really a lot. But there is a difference between wiping 300 times and 500 times on a boss, because you didn't have a few things like a Resto Shaman or a Fury or a Warrior. Well, it's not likely to be a Fury Warrior next expansion, or so the Warriors are gnashing their teeth about anyway. But arms will still be fine, I'm sure. Do we know when the first raid will open up? No. I mean, this is a thing. People will, of course, be assuming that it will work the same as it has in previous expansions, where expansion goes live. How did it work in Legion? So we had 1 week where it was just... Then in the second week, Mythic raids became a thing. Just the Mythic plus naught, wasn't it? Or was that available? That wasn't available from the start. I think that was the second week. Then in the third week, normal and heroic raids opened up, and Mythic plus opened up. I think that's right. Now, it could be the same again, but I just have the feeling that Blizzard rush, they front load expansions. And the thing is, they've said this, they've actually said this in a Q&A. They've admitted, yeah, they do too much front loading of it. which you could take to mean maybe they'll leave it another week or two before they open up the raid. Or you could remember that they also admitted the same thing about Warlords of Draenor and then still ended up front-loading stuff in Legion. They didn't really seem to learn their lesson. All right, they improved. I think, you know, the timing of raids was a lot better than in WoD, but they still were guilty of front-loading content. Do I think they're going to time gate stuff like they did with Argus and Suramar? Yes, of course. They may not do it in exactly the same way. Time gating is essential for them. Until, well, I say that. It's not for the developers. The developers don't give a shit. This is all about keeping people subscribed. Because... but they could always abandon the notion. Because I remember... There was, a few years ago, the reason why we had all these ridiculously long drought times was because they were being told to get expansions out on an annual basis. Well, that's a non-starter because Blizzard actually do a good job of their expansions and it needs a lot of development and testing. I mean, there's nearly a year worth of testing on it alone. So that was a non-starter. Now, they've abandoned that idea. So I suppose it's also possible, maybe with all the time-gated stuff we had, especially in Legion, but time-gating's been a thing, you know, for a while. Maybe if some bright spark is able to point out, and I don't know whether this is true or not, because obviously I can't see any figures, but let's say it's having no effect on the casual subscribers, the ones who subscribe for a month and then unsubscribe till the next patch, major patch. If it's having no effect on them, maybe they will decide that it's not worth the negative impact of so much time-gated content. And maybe they'll rein it in a bit. I still think LFR will be time-gated, though. But in terms of campaign stuff, I'd be very surprised if they didn't, because until they abandon that philosophy, and there's no suggestion that they have abandoned it, then... it's important for that. They need to try and keep people subscribed. I mean, we know there's going to be some stuff time gate because we still have the emissary quests. You know, that's stuff like... well, it's your choice. You can either do loads of world quests each day, or you can do loads of world quests every 3 days. It's really up to you. What do you feel like? But no more than that, otherwise you're missing out, is the implication. Although how much of a draw the world quests will be, the emissary quests, without the promise of legendaries, I don't know. Because as bad as the legendary system was, it was a good hook for doing emissary quests, wasn't it? Hiya, Fraser. Is there any chance I could condense the weekly highlights into a video? I certainly couldn't edit it down. That would be a ridiculous amount of work, yes. I have been thinking of stuff that might involve doing shorter discussion videos each week on certain topics, which may also come up in these. But that's part of a wider thingy for summer. But yeah, in terms of editing stuff like this, I mean, some people sort of also ask for timestamps for certain topics, which I don't think works anyway, because some topics come and go. Like you'll come back to a topic and stuff like that. But the other thing is just time. Yeah, I ain't got time. Like I will at some point probably watch this back and listen to it. I mean, if you can't stand to watch your own videos, then goodness sake. But usually I'll just do that while I'm doing some housework or something like that. So not in a situation where I can sit there and go... Because it would take hours. It's not just a case of spending the 2 hours listening back to it. Because you'd have to go for a bit. Because you'd have to... Because without knowing where everything is, you'd have to think of where the good start and end point of it is. So yeah, it could take a full day to do something like that. So unfortunately not. A lot of people just listen to it while they're doing world quests. And well, obviously world quests may not be a cup of tea at the moment in Legion. But when BFA comes out, You know, you could start listening to this while you start your world quest, and you will have finished it before you end your world quest. Certainly. It'll easily take over 2 hours to... Because that's what I'm going to have to do. This is why if I was having to fit it around work, I really would have to prioritise which world quests I do. There is no way I'd be able to do all the world quests. But given that I will have all day, every day for a couple of weeks, I will absolutely, for the rep if nothing else, be doing every single world quest. But it won't just be for that. It'll also be to unlock flight points. Because then when the really awesome piece of gear is in a world quest that's in a really inaccessible place, you don't want it taking you ages to get there on a raid night. So right now we're thinking world quest won't give that much Azerite. Oh, is that? Are you quoting from the? Have they been tweeting again? Well, no. The thing is, like I was saying this because again, someone was commenting on this, on that world quest video, and they were saying, "Oh no, you know, oh no, maybe it was the war mode video." And they were saying, oh no, it's definitely worth it for the Azerite. There's loads of Azerite with World Quest. Yeah, there is at the moment in beta. Absolutely, there's loads of Azerite available from World Quest. But Blizzard said that the primary way of getting your Azerite is going to be islands. Because that's the only purpose the islands serve even. Apart from a bit of fun, I'm sure it's a bit of fun. But in terms of the old carrot being dangled. So I can't see the World Quest being as lucrative as they are now when it goes live. Unless Blizzard change their mind again. Everyone is doing the 10 minutes here and there. Well, yeah, but I think that's because that's all people can sit down and listen to. Any video I do that lasts more than 10 minutes never gets a lot of views. Or almost never gets a lot of views. Unless it's on something super controversial. Keep in mind you want revered with factions. Well, you say this and it may be true. But this has happened before. In my experience, by the time you get... And it might be different in BFA. But generally speaking, by the time you get the revered necessary to get the what you'd call epic piece of gear, you might well have better pieces of gear elsewhere from like dungeons, mythic dungeons or something like that. I mean, put it this way, if islands are not the obvious place to go to get your Azerite, then what good are islands? And don't get me wrong, I would prefer it if we could avoid all that. I would rather do World Quest than Islands. Not because they're more fun. Of course, the Islands, of course, are more fun than World Quest. But I can do World Quest while I'm doing something else. You know, while I'm on the flight points to another place, I can be doing some work. All right? You know, I could be, you know, thinking of something else. I could even, you know, I could even do a bloody video if needs be. If I got pressed for time and I felt, shit, I need to do my World Quest, but I also need to record something for a video, I could record what I wanted to say while I was doing the World Quest. Can't really do that in an island because I'll keep getting distracted and I'll have to be communicating with other people in the group and all the rest of it, and that's just not happening. So I would prefer it if I could do menial content outside of raids and just do Islands of Fun. Because I think people would still do it for fun. Because, like, scenarios people did for fun. Or in my guild, they did anyway. In MOP. When we weren't really caring about the rewards. World Quest in Late Legion are only worth mostly for farming the Paragon mounts. Or like last week, or is it this week still, where you get 5,000 order resources for doing 20. Because... what I've noticed, I used to have, thankfully, I had like over 100,000 order resources. And it's been dwindling because I've basically stopped doing world quests. And yet I'm still using the order resources to send missions out. Some mission, I'm being selective about what missions I send out. But still. If they changed it from how it is now, you had revered with 2 factions once you dinged 120. Did you? How did you manage to? I had friendly with all of them. I didn't have any faction basically. I didn't have any rep when I dinged 120. You're thinking that islands will be a faster way to get Azeroth. Well, they have to be. Like I say, islands, you've got to think about what is the draw of all these bits of content. Because, you know, if you think about it, for BFA, there's quite a lot. You've got, they want to encourage us to do world quests. They want us to encourage us to do heroic dungeons, as well as Mythic Plus dungeons. They want to encourage us to do Warfronts. And they want to encourage us to do islands. That's 5 bits of content, and they've all got to have their niche benefit in doing them if they want us to do them on a regular basis. So an islands is just about Azeroth. If it's not the best way to get Azeroth, it's gonna fall a bit flat. You know, Mythic Plus can be about the gear. Mythic Plus doesn't need another thing, so that can be about the gear. Okay, if it awards some artifact power as well, all right, so be it. But you can incentivize that with gear. Warfronts don't care. I suppose the armor, cosmetics, you know, cosmetic stuff is a good enough draw for Warfronts. So yeah, islands has got, and world quest for rep. You know, but islands has got to be, as you know, the Azeroth. Maybe some of the factions are not properly implemented, because I got to level cap on Alliance, and all I had when I looked at my rep tab is I had the 4 factions. Well, there's more than 4, but you know, 4 factions for me, and they were all at friendly and right at the start of friendly. So it basically just given them to me. You know, none of them were at different points of friendly. It was all just the start of friendly. So I hadn't actually earned, but that could just be, again, stuff that's not implemented. Ever since Blizzard shows that Warfront should be 90% plus winnable, you lost interest because it was the same as LFR. It's worse than LFR. On LFR, at least you get to fight the bosses. They're a shadow of their mythic or even heroic selves. But at least you're fighting the bosses. If you're not AFK, excuse me. Warfronts, you're going over there to steal a pie. Then you're going over there to collect some wood. Then you're going over there to collect some ore. All you're doing is getting resources. You kill a few peasants or peons, sure. That's it. Maybe just spam islands if they're much of a useful source of AP. I mean, that's another thing, because Blizzard did say that there'd be like diminishing returns on it. They said it would be useful to do a few islands a week. After that, it would be much less rewarding. So, quite how that's going to work out, I don't know. On LFR, you can wipe endlessly. It is, thankfully, unusual to do that, though. Oops, what have we got? I mean, Coven, alright, fair enough in Antorus. Coven LFR is something to behold. But the rest of them seem to go over fairly easily. Regarding mailbox on Arthas and Strathern, what other options did he have? He had the option of not killing innocent peasants. much as Jaina and Uther suggested. He had the option of doing what his boss told him to do. Argus Elefar. Oh, well, maybe I've been lucky then, because Argus Elefar, although it's been of concern, it still died. But Coven is something else. Especially if you get... Well, if you get one idiot tank, then it's comical, but the other tank can sometimes rescue it. When you get two idiot tanks, then it's just depressing. I think there's two... Well, it's not always about the tanks as well. Like, individuals can just get themselves killed. I think there's too much on LFR Coven to kill people. You know, Blizzard said about having one meaningful mechanic. There's still quite a lot. There's a lot going on Coven LFR. Kill Jaden LFR. I only remember it being a nightmare in the first week. As soon as after that, it was always... The only problem with it was timing, getting the Illidan phase without the ads up. But as soon as like gear was such that people pushed through and the timing works out better, it wasn't an issue. But that's my... I can only go by my experience. And my experience is not that comprehensive because I don't do LFR unless I have to. The only thing that's semi-hyped is War Mode. And the drama. I don't know that there's much drama around War Mode, is there? I really don't think they're going to have a lot of artifact power from PvP stuff. Because, Azerite, I don't even know what the Azerite... There's not going to be that much Azerite armor from PvP, surely. The US, you still wipe on Armageddon. Okay. I don't know that everyone in the EU cares about mechanics. I wish they did. Wasn't it better to kill them before they became Forsaken? Yeah, but who... No. Because you're killing someone because they might become undead, not because they will. What it's better to do is to quarantine. Which is what the Kirin Tor told Menethil he should have done in the first place. You know. King Menethil was told to quarantine. And he went, no, 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 no. My people have suffered enough. Oh, well, if you want them to suffer even more, well, you carry on then, King. Which is exactly what happened. But there you go. Didn't listen to Medivh either, but then to be fair, he didn't know who he was. Someone still remember how at the start of Legion PvP wins gave only 6 AP per win? No, I don't remember anything. The only PvP I personally remember at the start of it was accidentally killing a... Well, oh yeah, because I was Horde. So it would have been an Alliance Death Knight. It wasn't a gnome though. I still feel bad about that. Can see his sad eyes still today going, why? But it was a problem because I don't know whether it was a feature of the game or a feature of LVUI or something, but basically with enemy faction players, the health bar that shows above their heads is the same colour as their class. And the problem with Death Knights is their colour is red. And enemy NPCs, hostile enemy NPCs, also have a red bar. Now, it is subtly different, but when you're around killing demons and seeing lots of red health bars, and you see something else, and let's face it, it was a Death Knight, its armour looked vaguely demonic, with a red health bar above its head, so I attacked it. And then I thought to myself, bloody hell, this mob's a bit tough, isn't it? And then realised it was a player, at which point I tried to disengage and go, oh, sorry. But he decided that I was trying to gank him, and so he attacked back. So unfortunately, I had no option but to kill him, as bad as I felt about it. But that was involuntary PvP. I didn't do any voluntary PvP. for quite a long time into Legion. In fact, I used to avoid trying to harm members of the opposite faction. Even when we were stuck together, killing the same, like, quest mob or something like that. With lore running out as far as people to kill, will we be introduced to a completely new alien race? We don't need a new alien race to get more lore characters. They just need to create and or develop more lore characters. You know, they just keep insisting on dragging up the old Warcraft 3 crowd. It's like the US Marines, World of Warcraft's attitude to storyline. It's literally like US Marines. It's like it's a unit that isn't really needed in modern warfare, but it's so iconic because of its history that it's kept around. And it's the same thing there. They keep digging all these characters that had a role to play. I mean, Khadgar, for example, bringing Khadgar into Warlords of Draenor didn't have to be Khadgar. Could have been a different mage. Could have been a mage we'd never heard of that we were introduced to. Completely new that they could have developed throughout Warlords of Draenor. They didn't do that. They brought us Khadgar. I mean, you could argue they utilised the fact it was Khadgar a little bit better in Legion with the Karazhan link. But not at all in WoD, as far as it really didn't have to be WoD, in anything to do with WoD. I think we're clearing the deck for something. They've killed off the Legion. I think they're killing off Old Gods in this expansion. I think we could do them this expansion. I think they're hurrying something through. They may not be, but I just get the very, very strong impression that they are. With everything I've seen so far, in terms of like Old God, the little bit of Old God quest lines, storylines we've seen so far. And as I say, I think it's going to get ramped up over the expansion. So, yeah, we've got about a year and a half to wait, and I think there'll be some fairly momentous news regarding the future of World of Warcraft. I think at BlizzCon 2019, I think there's going to be a stupendous announcement of something very, very new. Have I reviewed any of the Kalia Menethil stuff from Before the Storm? No, I haven't. I've seen people have done videos on it. There were 96 pages available to read on Amazon. I think personally, speculation is fun and reading things into that is fun. I think for me personally, it's close enough now before the release of the book that I'm just going to wait for the book. I don't usually get the World of Warcraft novels. I will do this time. I think I've got it on advance order actually. Let me just check. Where is it? When is it due for release now? I'm pretty sure it's next month, but I've forgotten. After BFA, what you want, full zone revamp of all zones or go full space expansion. I don't like the idea of a spacey expansion. I mean, we've been to a few worlds before, although 2 of them have been the same basic world. But no, I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, they could do it, of course, you know. There's nothing to stop them doing it, but I wouldn't like that. Did I see the E3 leak? According to this leak, Blizz will be E3 announcing WoW for PS4. I can well imagine that Blizzard wants to create a Warcraft-based game for console. Console is a much bigger market than the PC market, of course. Even individually, not, you know, you don't even have to combine Xbox and PlayStation, just each one individually. I don't believe they would just do it for PS4. They'd surely do it for both, wouldn't they? The only time you ever get a game, if I'm not really into the old thing with consoles, but I'm pretty sure the only time you get a game exclusively for one is when it's been developed exclusively for one. You know, as part of like a deal. But I don't think WoW in its current form could translate to, wouldn't it be? I can't see it. It's not impossible, but I think it would be. I don't think it would be fun. I mean, Elder Scrolls Online obviously has probably shown a few people that you can do MMOs on consoles, and I can imagine Blizzard developing a Warcraft game for consoles, as well as hopefully PC. But I can't see it being World of Warcraft. Blizzard must have the end game for Azeroth planned. Well, I am starting to wonder if Blizzard, if it might not be sooner rather than later as well, without going into WoW is dying type of thing, but just in terms of the rate at which we are tying up loose ends and doing things where it seems to be, like, for example, like you said before, running out of landmass on Azeroth. Just all these things that seem to be conspiring to either a completely new direction in the storyline of the game, or, well, if you're going to have a completely new storyline, why not make a whole new Warcraft game, is what I'm wondering. Zone revamps are a waste of time because it could cost us a raid tier. Well, it shouldn't, because it should be different people working on them. But the main issue I have with zone revamps is I didn't like it when they did. I don't like any of their revamps. I didn't appreciate the fact that they changed the 1 to 60 content. I didn't appreciate the fact that they basically got rid of Scholarmance. Really hate the fact they got rid of Scholarmance. You know, I wouldn't have minded if they did with Scholarmance and, you know, the other ones as well, what they did with Karazhan. So you can still go into original Karazhan, or you could do new Karazhan. If they'd have done that, that would have been fine. But just to get rid of it, not a happy bunny. Not a happy bunny at all. WoW Classic for PS4 is perfect. How? It'd be worse for console. Because this is it. Like, people have been joking recently that, you know, that one of the big differences when the WoW Classic comes out compared to vanilla is, you know, we're going to have guides and stuff like that. I'm totally on top of the Retribution Paladin guide, you know, and, you know, it's not going to be a big 50-minute thing like it's probably going to end up being for Battle for Azeroth. The Retribution Paladin guide is this. Click seal with your left mouse button. Walk to mob, right-click mob. Wait for it to die and loot. That's it. That's the Retribution Paladin guide for Classic WoW. I'll tell them what talents to take as well, of course. So, you know. Oh yeah, and for Holy. Holy, to be fair, I mean, healing's always... Because you didn't have, like, HOTS and AoE heals, there was a lot of triage to do in healing. There was subtlety to it. But obviously there wasn't a great deal of variety with your spells. Yes, it was Flash of Light. You had to choose the right person to do it on at the right time, and you had to choose the right, when to switch to. Because if you got yourself enough crits that you didn't just need to use Flash of Light, you could spam Holy Light quite a lot once you got yourself your reasonable gear. Selecting raid frames on a console. Console players deserve everything they get. Yes, that is a point, Safian. Yeah, no add-ons, actually. Well, it would be doable because, we wouldn't be lumped in with them. Because with Elder Scrolls Online, for example, you can have ESO for console, for PC, but we don't play together. So I was playing on the PC version. I don't ever come across a console player. And you're not even allowed to transfer, because I think someone was saying to me recently, they played it on the console. They'd like to play it on the PC, but they did put so much time into that character they don't want to they'd like to transfer it, but they don't want to start again. But there is no option to transfer it from one to the other either. So they'd be totally separate. Raid here, yeah, I can't imagine. Well, this is the thing, Safi. I can't see World of Warcraft being in any way compatible with a console game. But I can see another version of Warcraft which has a much more modern combat style to it working. I can see that. But yeah, World of Warcraft on a console, cannot see it working. Moving forward, you'd rather not go to another world. Rather we just discover the other side of the planet or something. Well, I mean, I would be spectacularly disappointed if we were to suddenly find a huge continent on the other side. Because apart from anything else, not only... Why wouldn't anyone know about such a large continent by now? It's not like we're medieval peasants or something. We've got boats that can get around the world pretty well. We've got bloody spaceships, for goodness sake. We've been on Argus, watching Azeroth rotating around. How can we not have noticed a giant continent? So it would be the ultimate suspension of disbelief if Blizzard pulled that one. Underground, yeah, go back, see what Therazane thinks of us. She's not very happy with us. She wasn't even very happy with my Shaman when I was doing some quests in Legion. Blizzard can do anything they like indeed, Melanorak even, sorry. They can absolutely do whatever they please, whenever they want, and hang the consequences, as they always do. But they'd better not. There are some things that are just beyond the pale. But, I just look at it like this. I've no doubt that if Blizzard wanted to keep... they could produce another 4 or 5 expansions. And it would still be getting plenty of money to keep going. I have no doubt about that. But I cannot believe that they aren't working on a more modern Warcraft game. I just hope... Well, I hope one of two things. If I'm now going to be honest, a couple of weeks ago, I would have said, I just hope it's a game that I will enjoy. Because I was fearing that the next Warcraft game would be a mobile game. I mean, you can argue there's Hearthstone, but, in terms of actual, next proper Warcraft game. I now hope that either it's a game I will really enjoy, or I get back into Warhammer big time and I don't even notice that WoW's crap again. Deleting Masterlit was beyond for me. I don't know that. I mean, as much as I think it's a very bad decision, I don't want to blow it out of proportion. I mean, people will just have to adapt. You know, the scene will change, the player behaviour will change, guild behaviour will change. Some guilds will be on top of it early on and will adapt quickly. Some guilds will spend bloody ages running around like headless chickens, then see what everyone else is doing and go, oh yeah, we'd better do that as well. You know, it'll sort itself out. I'm not saying it will come back to equilibrium. I think it will still be a bad decision, but it'll sort itself out. I don't think it will be to the detriment of. I think it'll be to the detriment of raiding. I don't think it'll be to the detriment of the number of raiders, even mythic raiders. Pandaria was on the WoW Classic logo in 2004. But the thing is, Pandaria did exist, although it wasn't on our original map. We knew, when World of Warcraft came out, we knew Pandaria was a place. We knew Northrend was a place. We knew Kulturas was a place. We knew Zandalar was a place. We knew the Broken Isles was a place. All the places on the world map as we have it now, which have appeared over expansion, we still knew about them when before World of Warcraft even came out. So none of them are new zones to World of Warcraft. The idea of having a new zone from World of Warcraft is, you know, would be dodgy. That would make no sense. You mean Azjol Nerub? Azjol Nerub is the underground zone in Northrend. I know it just became the name of a dungeon, but it's actually supposed to be a land of the Azjol Nerubians. And was my first realm, actually, when I first started playing World of Warcraft. I say my first realm, my first proper realm, because the friend who got me into it, he was at work when I got it and I got it home, so I just created a character and I didn't know which realm he was on. Then he said, oh, we're on Azjol Nerub. So I went, oh, okay. So technically my paladin is actually my second paladin, because I have another one that's probably about level 5 somewhere else. It might have even been deleted now. Although I'm usually far too sentimental to delete things like that, so I probably haven't. But I don't even remember what realm it was on. Probably whatever one the game suggested to me as a suitable realm to go on to. But anyway, we've come to the end there. We're sort of 5 minutes over again. So thanks for everyone for coming on and having some good discussions there. We'll be back next week, of course. I will put this onto YouTube as soon as possible. Have a good night, everyone. I'm going to go off and try and find some ice and shove it in both ends because I'm boiling. And until next time, I'll see you later.